Salute the flag. Everyone. Announcement of the Sun. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced posted on the Monroe Township website and sent to those individuals who have requested 1 minute for.
All right, I was like,
You're looking good
Mr. Chairman.
He's dressed up too.
Okay. You two guys talk.
Roll call.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Damiani? Mr. Lupo?
Here.
Mr. Masters?
Here.
Mr. Busman? Ms. Caratori?
Here.
Mr. Tanzi?
Here.
Mr. Jaffe?
Here.
Mr. Verdi?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Chairman LaFada?
Here. In the absence of Vice Chairwoman Carol Damiani, Mr. Jaffe, you will be a full voting member this evening. And in the absence of Mr. Busman, Mr. Verdi, you will be a full voting member this evening. Okay, board members, we have minutes from our previous meeting. Do I have an approval? It was from April. There was no meeting in May. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Katori? Got it.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Mr. Verdi?
Yes.
Chairman LaFada?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Okay, council, do you want to
Sure.
recognize?
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, there are two applications which were listed for hearing this evening. The first was BA 5200-20 Hikmet Siglam. The second was BA 5184-19 Brasusa Construction Incorporated. We received a letter from the applicant's attorney on the second application, BA 5184-19 Brasusa Construction Incorporated. It reads, "Our firm continues to represent Brasusa Construction Incorporated with regard to the above matter. It was discovered that there was an error in the legal notice for the hearing this evening. Please accept this letter as a request that the application be carried to the board's July 26, 2022 meeting. Our office will publish a notice for same. Thank you for your courtesies and assistance with this matter. Very, very truly yours, Peter H. Clauser." So that matter cannot be heard this evening. From a agenda perspective, I would defer to the staff regarding when this can be heard, but they have requested that they be carried to the next available meeting.
We're going to leave that to, okay, it seems to be okay for
As
July
long
26th.
as we have room on the 26th, that's when we'll indicate we're going to carry it to. If something changes, obviously it'll appear on the agenda.
Thank you.
And they will need to renotice for that hearing. I believe the other application is ready to be heard this evening.
Thank you. Before we get to that, board members, we have a memorialization of application BA-5211-21, Thomas Riley. Do I have a motion to memorialize? Lupo? And Masters. Do a roll call. Do a roll call.
Mr. Lupo? Yes. Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Mr. Verdi?
Yes.
Chairman LaFada?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Hikmet Siglan, application BA-5200-20. Please step forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, professionals, and staff. My name is Peter Licata of the law firm of Sonnenblick, Mayer, and Licata, formerly Sonnenblick, Parker, and Selvers of Freehold, New Jersey, on behalf of the applicant. I have two principal witnesses I'd like to present this evening, John DuPont, who is a licensed engineer and is the project engineer, as well as Allison Coffin, who is a licensed professional planner. Also in the gallery is the applicant himself, Hikmet Siglam, who is available to testify and answer questions as needed. Thank you.
Very well, please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to call Mr. DuPont forward, probably have him sworn in and mark any exhibits before he begins his testimony.
Mr. Dupont, if you could raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
John P. DuPont, D-U capital P-O-N-T, JPD Engineering, 756 Jackson Road, Stewartsville, New Jersey.
Can you just share the microphone?
Certainly.
Sorry about that.
No worries. John, before you get to any exhibits and the marking of them, could you just refresh the board as to your educational and professional qualifications?
Certainly. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. I am a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, as well as a certified municipal engineer. I served as I'm still serving as the Planning and Zoning Board engineer for the Borough of Carteret for about the last 23 years. I've been through boards throughout the state. I've been to this board last month, I believe it was, with your 2 months ago.
Okay, Mr. DuPont, we will accept your credentials as a professional. Mr. Licata, please proceed.
Thank you. John, could you give the board in a narrative fashion an overview of what is being proposed?
Certainly. And just because I have the mic, I'll sit here and then we'll go to the exhibit when I can. So what we're looking at tonight is 151 Pagola Avenue. It's block 75, lot 9. It is in the NC Neighborhood Commercial District. This is a 2.43 acre site, which currently has a single family home on it, a shed, and a pool on the property. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3,600 square feet, one-story building and associated parking for his electrical business in the front of the lot. The single-family home and other improvements will remain. This project, you might remember, was previously approved by the board. However, the applicant didn't act quick enough and the approvals have lapsed. So you're seeing something probably very similar or very familiar to you, and that's what happened. So the building will be, again, 3,600 square feet, will include 1 loading space, 7 parking spaces, including 1 ADA space and 1 electrical charging space. There'll also be a proposed dumpster, which will be enclosed. The parking area will be required to have lighting, buffering. There'll be a new sanitary sewer connection made for the building. In order to address the increase in impervious coverage, we're proposing some on-site seepage pits. So we've actually designed the seepage pit to account for the roof leaders. And if I can go to the plan, and if I'm too quiet,
Why don't you take the microphone?
okay. Can I get that cord? What's that cord gonna go? Okay, all right.
Mr. Dupont, for the record, what you're going to refer to, is that a copy of a plan that's been presented to the board already or something that's new this evening?
This is a copy of the plan submitted. This is sheet 3 of 8 in your submitted packet.
Okay, no need to mark that then.
Okay, and I'm gonna try to speak loud so I can get on the
George,
tape.
can you hear? George, can you hear?
So we talked about the existing building, single-family dwelling and pool and shed in the rear of the property. All gonna stay where it is. The existing driveway off Pagola stays in place. The front portion of the property right now is just the grass area. It's open. It's not being, not used at this point. So the applicant's proposing, again, a 1-story building, 3,600 square feet, and parking behind it, 7 spaces again, just for his electrical business. The applicant's not anticipating customers coming to the site, but it's his electrical business, so his vans will be there. There is 1 loading spot. There is, again, the driveway is existing, the curb is existing. There is some buffering on the perimeter, on both sides of the property. We're gonna significantly enhance it. As we talked about the drainage, we're proposing seepage pits to account for 100% of the runoff from the roof leaders. The parking area, we're proposing not to curb the parking area, so let the water sheet flow off into the grass. And then we actually result in a reduction of runoff from the site, so we've addressed the stormwater. This project, due to its limited nature, being only less than a quarter acre of new impervious, and less than an acre disturbance, is a minor stormwater project, according to the township as well as the state. And we've had several meetings and some very detailed TCR meetings with your professional staff. They've been very helpful. We've really tweaked this plan a lot. And since the last TRC meeting, we made some changes to the plan, but we didn't have time to submit it to you. So I made an exhibit. And I'd like to show that exhibit and mark that.
We should mark that as Exhibit A1.
So this is a colorized version and revised version of, what did I do on pen? Of sheet 4. So it's definitely not something you have not seen. A1?
Yes, please. If you could add today's date, today's the 28th.
So from the TRC meetings and the meetings with your staff, there's been some significant improvements to the plan, and I think we should highlight them. So first, Pagola Avenue, County Road. If you're familiar with the site, there's actually curbing in place now, but odd. It's recessed off the roadway, off the edge of pavement. There's actually a paved roadway, an edge of pavement, then a gravel strip, and then existing curbing. It almost looks like a previous owner had anticipated a widening by the county, put the curb in, and put it in the wrong spot. So we've been to the county already. We've had comments from the county. They are going to take another 5-foot dedication from our property. So in this exhibit only, we've showed the existing curbing, that's in pink. That's out there today. Showed the current right-of-way line, and now we pulled the right-of-way back 5 feet. And the reason why the county wanted, well, the comment came up when the county wanted 5 feet. They also want the curb and proposed sidewalk within their right-of-way. So on this exhibit, we checked, when we pulled the county right-of-way 5 feet backwards towards our property, we can now fit a new curbing, pull out the old, and sidewalk. It'll meet their requirements. I think you'll be happy with that as well. That was a pretty big condition we kept reviewing, and now I think we got it nailed. And we know we have to go to the county for that approval, but I think we've done that. 2, we have moved, your engineer had a good point. We initially had our ADA space, we had all the parking spaces kind of back away from the building a little bit. We had an accessible path, but it wasn't as close as it could be. Mr. Asmowitz recommended that we move the handicap space close to the building in this corner. It fits, there's no problem, it's a good spot. It's very close now to the ADA ramp. The accessible path is very short. I think that's a big improvement. Where the old ADA space used to be located, we've now put an electrical vehicle charging station back there. New Jersey state law now, we're required to provide at least one EV ready space, and we've got that on the plan. We actually get credit for 2 spaces for that, but we've moved that. Now, let's start, probably the biggest change of the whole thing. Initially, when we submitted, we didn't meet your front yard buffer for a building to a residential use. We were short, and we with the confusion on the county right away, we were about 52 feet. On this exhibit, we've changed the building again. We show the proposed county right of way line. We know where it's going to be, and we've modified our building, and we've pulled it back now 60 feet. So we're going to meet your front yard buffer from our building to a residential use. In addition, we significantly increased the buffering. So we have the space, now we have the 60 feet required. Now we put a landscape berm in front. 6 foot tall is required with the plantings you require, and we'll completely screen the front of the building. And that's one of 3 areas where we have to screen. So I think we feel real comfortable. We got the curb and sidewalk in the right location. We've got a raised berm out front now. That meets your ordinance. There's existing dwellings on both sides of our property. One to the bottom part of the page, very close to our property, the existing frame dwelling. That has some trees on there. We're going to heavily buffer. Now, we're going to add to that. There's one row of evergreens now. We're going to significantly increase the buffering along our driveway to basically screen us completely from that dwelling. On the top side of the page, there's a home that was just renovated. And that home has made some changes, took down their fence and done some different things. So our building is 25.5 feet to that property line. So we put a significant buffer now. We are screening that entire side of the property. A heavy buffer screening, we think completely meeting the intent of your ordinance. The entire length of our improvements, all the way back to our parking location, we're screening. There's wetlands in the back and some woods, so we're cutting that property off. I think that's a significant improvement. So I think that's, I wanted to make the exhibit tonight because I want to be able to represent to you that we've heard what I think are the most important comments from your professional staff. We know the changes work now on the plan. And on the final plans, there'll be no problem making this work. This does all work and is engineered and it's ready to go. I just couldn't submit it to you in time. And that's really the extent of the project. Again, it's the one-story building that this owner's going to use for his contracting business. I think it's very limited, but I get it. The buffering was key, location was key. I think we hit all those points.
Thank you, John. Before I open you up to questions, yeah, a bit about the hours of operation. So there's customers that come here for work to be done on premises.
That's correct.
And what about just the other typical weekday, workday, work week? What's that like?
So typical, we have hours of operation are going to be from 7 a.m. to 5:30, and that's Monday through Saturday. There's a maximum of 15 employees, 7 work vehicles. That's why we have that many spaces. So typically, an employee will drive their own vehicle directly to the sites. Some are going to get the van. So only has 15 employees. You're only going to see about 7 at this site at any one time. There's deliveries for his materials. Maybe there's 1 or 2 a week of deliveries, and this is not a big truck. This is a box truck type of delivery. No trucks over 8,000 pounds will be parked in this parking area or by the office overnight. It'll just be the vans. The dumpster that we talked about is a dumpster that's fully screened. It'll be emptied weekly, and if need be, if that's not enough, it'll be more. And the outdoor lighting, we have outdoor lighting on that parking lot. It's shielded. It'll be dusk to dawn, and there will be certainly no spillage on neighboring properties.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, at this point, maybe Mr. DuPont available for questions.
What I think we'll do is I think we're going to run through all your testimony, and then we'll have the professionals speak, then we'll have any board members, then we'll have the public.
Ms. Carmen, could you step forward?
Sure.
You need to be sworn in.
If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
Yes. Allison Coffin, Coffin. I am a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I'm certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've had my license and certification since 2005. In that time, I've been accepted as an expert in more than 100 communities throughout the state, including Monroe. I've appeared here previously.
We don't need to go any further. We've had you here before, so feel free to continue.
Thank you.
Also, if you could review for the board what you reviewed in preparation for your testimony tonight and any conclusions that you may have.
Sure. I reviewed the application materials, had meetings with the applicant. I visited the site. I skimmed through the master plan and the reexamination report, and I read the professionals' reviews. The property that we're looking at is a 2.34 acre parcel with frontage on Pergola Avenue. The site had previously received a use variance for the construction of a single-family home in the rear, which was constructed, and a variance for a plumber's office with a warehouse space at the frontage, which was not perfected and has since expired. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3,600 square foot office warehouse space for an electrical contractor, similar to the previously approved plumbing business. The building will be supported by 7 parking spaces, one of those being an ECV space, and the applicant is proposing significant landscaping to screen the new structure. The property is located in the NC Neighborhood Commercial Zone. Permitted uses in this zone are retail stores, personal service establishments, outlets, and pickup stations for laundry and dry cleaners, fully enclosed eating and drinking establishments, banks, business and professional offices, and municipal utilities. The single-family home that exists on the site does so by way of use variance. It's not a permitted use. And the proposed mix of uses now with the electrical, office, and warehouse at the front in combination with the existing dwelling is not permitted. Therefore, a D1 variance is being requested. There's some existing variance conditions on the property. The lot width and frontage are non-conforming. 200 feet is required, and for the width, it's 134, and for the frontage, it's 128. These are pre-existing non-conforming conditions, and there's a side buffer of 60 feet to the residential zone where 53 feet is existing. Other variances, though, that the applicant is requesting at this time there's an ordinance requirement that a lot used for a single-family dwelling shall have only one principal building. The applicant is proposing two. Should the board grant the use variance relief for the two uses on the site, it's my opinion that this variance would be subsumed within that variance. There's also relief required for the parking setback of the building where 30 feet is required and it's 6 feet to the loading zone, and a parking setback of 50 feet from the side lot line where 29 feet is proposed. So it's my opinion that special reasons exist for the granting of the requested variances, and the variances can be granted with no detriment to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. The general welfare in this case is advanced due to the fact that the proposed use advances the municipal land use law and that the site is uniquely and particularly suited to the proposed uses. This subject site is substantially oversized for the zone. It has more than 2.5 times the minimum lot area requirement, despite having non-conforming width. The subject site is also bisected by an area of wetlands, which separates that residentially developed rear portion of the site from the frontage of the site, in effect making 2 pockets of usable area on this deep, large parcel. The proposed office and storage space for the electrical contractor, though not specifically permitted, is in character with the permitted commercial uses of the zone, such as business offices and the repair of consumer goods, and it is an appropriate use to locate in that front pocket on this uniquely bisected property. The requested D variances can be granted without detriment. The existing home has very little impact. The proposed new electrical contractor's office and storage use will not generate noise, odors, or traffic that's more intense than most of the permitted uses. In fact, the traffic and noise would be significantly less than some of these permitted uses like retail, personal services, restaurants, and offices. The proposed bulk variances that the applicant's requesting could be granted without detriment. The requirement that the lot used for single-family dwellings shall have only one principal building. Again, that would be subsumed within the use variance. If we're going to grant a use variance for 2 uses, 2 principal structures goes along with that. The parking setback from the building, where 30 feet is required and 6 feet is proposed to the loading zone, the ordinance intends here that there be safe access to the buildings for emergencies. Your fire official has reviewed the plans, deemed them satisfactory, and therefore, despite the need for this variance, there is safe access available to this building. And the last one is the parking setback of 50 feet from the lot line, where 50 feet is required and 29 feet is proposed. This variance is driven by the narrow nature of the existing site, which, while oversized in area, has less than the required width and frontage, and this creates hardship with regard to setbacks on the sides and a need to locate that parking within some of the required setback. The proposed variances in their total will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of your master plan and zoning ordinance. The subject site, again, is extremely oversized for the zone. It's unique in that it's being bisected by those wetlands, and it can easily accommodate the 2 uses as they're proposed. The proposed use is in character with the type of commercial uses that's permitted in the NC zone, and the landscaping that's proposed has been designed to meet the ordinance intent for buffering, so it provides full mitigation of the visual impact of the proposed building at the front. So for those reasons, it's my opinion that the proposal satisfies both the positive and the negative criteria for the requested variances. The variances can be granted without detriment to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public, and the application would result in an improvement to the site in a manner which would not impair the intent of the master plan and the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Chairman, I make my witnesses open to questioning, just reserving the right to recall anyone who wants to question.
Absolutely. Okay, we're gonna start with our professionals. Mika, you're in the hot seat.
Couple of follow-up questions to make sure no signage is being proposed at this time.
That is correct, and we would stipulate.
Also, in terms of the warehouse area and what would be stored inside, any hazardous materials or corrosive elements, anything of that nature, or is it just electrical? Could you just provide a little more detail on what type?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it's just typical electrical tools and supplies. The work is done for electrical installation and renovation off-site. So no, there wouldn't be corrosive chemicals or things like that.
Thank you. Additionally, I believe testimony was provided today that the, am I not supposed to press that?
There's a button on the bottom, Joe. Oh, it's on. It's on. It's red. Just bring it close. Just bring it closer
I'm not supposed
to
to
you.
press it?
No, no.
Oh. In Bayonne, they make me press it. Okay, sorry.
You're shutting it off.
What do I know? So going back to the landscaping, my office has reviewed the landscaping, and it does seem significant in maintaining the intent of the ordinance, which is to visually buffer. In your opinion, with this additional 60 feet that we are getting, would there be any changes in the landscaping, or the berm is meeting the 6-foot requirement? Is that being met still?
Yeah, John, why don't you respond direct?
Yes, actually, the berm that's proposed on the exhibit is the 6 foot high. It's intended completely to meet the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. And last question, the lighting, I believe the testimony was that you would be complying with, I think our memo asked for some details on the height of the poles or the height of the lighting. You would be willing to comply with all that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there anything else in the planner's memo that you would not be complying with or would not be agreeing to comply with?
From an engineering standpoint, I reviewed it. There's nothing we can't comply with.
Okay.
And we can comply with everything. And actually, I did not mention that. Mr. Rasmos's letter of June 22nd, we feel comfortable we can comply with everything in that letter as well.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Razmoch.
Now it's on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first off, the application's in for use variance and preliminary and final site plan, as the engineer spoke about. He has a exhibit up there. He's made some changes based on some feedback from the county. So I'll just point that out to the board. Typically, the board entertains, only preliminary.
Preliminary, we bifurcate.
But I leave that up to the board's discretion. Certainly, all the items that their engineer discussed, could be accommodated. I have no problem working with their engineer to address them. I did agree to meet all the comments in my June 22nd, 2022 review letter. Just want to clarify a couple of things. If we can talk about the buffers. Concern is the side buffering to the existing homes. You're very close to a home on the east side and the west side. So can you elaborate a little bit on the buffers in there and how much of a buffer you are providing?
Absolutely. So you're looking at the property to the right, at the bottom of the sheet of the exhibit. That property has a line of evergreens already, but now we're proposing an additional 15-foot wide buffer from our existing curb line to the property line. From the front edge of the existing dwelling, all the way past the edge of our proposed building. So that length of buffer, about 90 feet and 15 feet wide in that lower half.
So for the board's information, how far off the property line is that existing home to the west? How close is it to you?
About 8 feet
8 feet.
off our property line.
And what type of landscaping are you providing in there? Because you have overhead wires that are in that strip where you're showing all the
a mix
landscape.
Of, sorry, I'll step in front of it. Mixture of some white pine in the area, some blue spruce, and also some lower bushes and plantings, some forsythia. A combination of it.
Well, I'll take the assumption that the board will entertain only preliminary tonight, and that's something do you feel we could increase some of the landscaping in there and the buffering between now and final?
I
Could you get a-
do, and I think once you see, Mark, once you see the revised plan, I think we've enhanced it since the plan you have even.
Thank you.
When we visited the site, we totally get the need for the buffering. You know, even on the north side, the top side of the sheet, same thing, that property owner kind of took out some of the stuff, so we understand the buffering. I think you're gonna be happy with this thicker buffer.
Thanks. On the east side there, that home, I think that's quite close to the property line as well?
I didn't locate that. Their driveway is 10 feet off. They're probably 10, maybe like 12 to 15 feet off.
So originally, you're asking for a variance for the buffer on that side, and I believe you indicated 28 feet. Is that changed now due to the location of the stormwater seepage pit?
We're proposing a 10-foot wide buffer at the entire length of our proposed project on that side.
Okay, so that variance is being amended. 28 feet, it looks like it's, I'll defer to our planner if it's been revised to 10 feet or not.
Yeah, this is 10 foot wide right now.
10 foot, and that's what you're proposing?
Yes. It's a heavy buffer on that side too. There's a couple existing trees on our side and their side, and we're holding a basic screen right now.
John, to Mr. Resimo's point as to the neighbor, 153, did you receive any feedback? Did the applicant receive any feedback from that neighbor? Expression of concern?
I think there's been discussions. I don't see the neighbor here tonight. I did not speak with the neighbor directly, but I don't remember any negative feedback.
Mr. Chairman, which home is 153? When you're saying 153, is that what you said? Which home is that?
Looking at the site to the left, the gray home.
Is it the one on the top or the one on the bottom?
It would be 153. The point of the question, Mr. Chairman, and board attorneys, is I can represent to the board that we reached a written agreement with the owner of 153 to install additional landscaping and fencing on his property. So if you don't see it on this board, it's not on. I have a copy of the written agreement. It's been signed by both parties, and it even states that it can be provided to the board for its information.
Do you have a copy?
Have it marked as an exhibit.
Yes, we will.
You want that A2?
We'll accept that.
Thank you. If I may approach, I'll give it to Mr.
Mr. Licata, is it contemplated this will be recorded?
It could be, if that's the board's wishes. It was just signed yesterday and today by the parties.
An agreement that requires them to provide additional landscaping
On their side.
on that property. So then you can decide if you want to see that be something that
Well,
gets, if there's,
That's something
that
you
agreement
wanna
gets
review.
recorded so that they stay there, so it's not a situation where somewhere down the line, somebody changes their mind. Or that neighbor decides, you know, he sells the house and doesn't understand why the landscaping's there, and he takes it all down.
Okay, so this is the house to the left of your property, correct?
John, that's right. If you're standing at the front of the property to the left.
So it's pretty wide open to that home, and I see the agreement. The house is for sale. It was just renovated and it's for sale. So my concern is, one, that you have a seepage pit located there where you had about 25 feet of room to put buffering. Now you've reduced that down to only 10 feet. Can that seepage pit be relocated so we can increase the buffer to that home?
I can certainly slide it forward more.
Okay, so that's something, I'd like to look at, again, assuming it gets approved prior to final. You're asking for the waiver from providing curb around the parking areas?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you are not providing wheel stops, is that correct, or you are?
We will provide wheel stops.
You're looking to provide wheel stops?
Yes.
Okay. And in this instance, you have retail where the public will be coming to the site to pick up materials, or is it
None.
just
Nope.
employees on the site?
Just employees.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have an objection to the wheel stops. I leave it up to the board. As far as no curbing on the parking area and the drainage patterns, is there any impact to the drainage patterns?
That's why I'm proposing no curb, because I want to have the water sheet off to the back area, the lawn area, and the wood area. I think it's beneficial. It's not going
Thank
to concentrate on.
Yes, that's fine. Again, I have no objection to the waiver on that. The other item you're providing is porous pavement,
Yes.
and I don't think I saw soil logs for it, but you're comfortable, you will provide them if you haven't provided them?
Certainly will provide the soil logs, maintenance for the porous pavement, and maintenance for the seepage pit as well.
Thank you. And you're comfortable that the soils can handle the porous pavement as
Yes.
well as the seepage pit? that you're
I am, and if not, we'll have to be back to you.
Mr. Chairman, that's really it. As Mr. Dupont said, we did have several meetings. I did sit with him. There's a lot of stormwater items that we worked through, and now with the county's input as to what they wanted along the frontage, which was up in the air up until recently, we'll be able to, I'm comfortable with working with Mr. Dupont to finalize the stormwater and the plans.
Okay. Mika, did you have any follow-up questions?
I do. I just want to clarify, just for the record purposes, the property that's west of you, the top of this, for lack of better word, is not in the residential zone. I believe the lot starts one lot over after your property. Although the use is residential, it's not a residential zone. So the buffer requirement, as per the ordinance, is only along property line that's adjacent to residential zone. So
Say zone and use? Says
it,
just-
it says, I believe, only residential zone. So again, the intent of the ordinance is being met by you providing the landscaping, and I believe you're providing the evergreens and all, but I want to clarify that that's not a variance requirement of the 25 feet. That's why we haven't pointed that in our
That's great.
review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lupo, you had a question, sir.
Yeah, for the engineer, do you know the actual, it's hard to make out here on the plan, the dwelling to the left will be the opposite of 153. How far is that in feet wise to the proposed structure?
The one to the top of the sheet?
The one on the bottom. of the
Okay,
sheet.
that one I have. That one I have. About 70 feet.
70 feet, and how high is your lighting? Is it 15 feet poles or something like that?
We'll switch to the lighting plan first. then. Building mounted, and it is, I know it's 15 feet. I'm sorry, 20 feet. It's building mounted 20 feet.
And in lot 153, approximately the same amount distance?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
153, that's the lot on the
Yeah.
top, about the same distance or closer? Closer.
But there's zero spillage. We only have one light's covering the back of that apartment.
Is there a problem maybe having lower lighting so it just isn't an eyesore to the existing dwellings there instead of 20 feet?
Well, I will tell you that the light we chose, this gives you just an idea, the half a foot candle is, the half a foot candle is 20 feet from the property line as is. There's gonna be zero spillage. And the light is not gonna be, it's in the back of the building, so it's not gonna be, these houses aren't gonna see the shine. It's shining backwards from the back of the property. So the light will be, here's the deal, the light is beyond, is deeper than either one of the houses and shining back towards the arc dwelling.
So it's not going to be an episode of like,
I don't think they're gonna see the high point, the hot point there. I don't think they're gonna see any spillage at all. We did very limited light just for that reason.
okay. I don't have any more questions.
Anyone else from the board have any questions? Ms. Cotturi?
Where is the seepage pit that
If I go back to the exhibit, alongside the building, just to the top of the sheet towards the front of the building. So now, as President says, we slide it a little closer to Pagola Avenue and increase that buffer perhaps. We're gonna look at that.
we are adding so much landscape, right? Can't we use the water for the landscape?
I couldn't hear you.
Can we use the water for the landscape, she
We
said?
are adding so much, right?
Well, I mean, you could take a look at, I don't know if that could be utilized in any way.
Like retaining runoff and using it for,
Yeah. Rainwater harvest
Yeah.
thinking since we're adding.
I think it's
That way
certainly,
you don't have to maintain the trees until,
understood.
that's all.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Any other questions from the board members? Mr. Masters?
Behind can you hear me? Just a quick, behind 149, what is that? Is that another business?
Hold on.
Sir, you're not called up here. We're not in the public portion. Council will answer the question, please. Thank you.
John,
Yeah.
refer to your area map. Could you answer?
So the one down to the south of our property, I'm sorry, which way is,
So when you're looking at it from the road to the right,
correct?
149 is the house, and then there's other buildings back there.
There is, I think it was actually, believe it or not, I drove there, I think there's a school of some sort, it's like a.
No, between the school, that's
Oh.
the Academy Learning Center, yeah, between the school and that house. I'm just looking at Google Maps, it looks like there's a bunch of buildings. and-
Yeah, it might be some sheds. Yeah, I see it on their Google. I didn't get a good look at it, but
Okay.
there were some chickens back there too.
Any other questions? Mr. Tanzi?
Is there a need for any recycling containers?
Any need for recycling containers?
They have dumpster. I'm sure they put recycling there too.
You're gonna have a dumpster, so I'm assuming, being it's commercial, everything's gonna go in one location.
And second question, you mentioned the address 153?
That's the next door neighbor. the joint house.
Yeah, but it's not listed on the drawings. 153.
Listed in what respect? Just on the 200-foot property list?
Notification. You mentioned you had an agreement.
Oh. Well, let's give it lot that is. That is. Lot 10? It's on there. It's the fourth property listed on the 200-foot property list. Lot 10. Garbage property at the time of this list.
You got, okay, the one that's listed 121 half acres?
Yes. And maybe that's their, I guess that's the address of who owns it, perhaps? That's the block and lot though next door.
And the list that appears on your plan was as originally prepared about a year and a half ago. Obviously, we noticed within very recent owners.
February 2022. Just for the record, I did review the applicant's affidavit of mailing and publication, and everything was in order. The board does have jurisdiction.
Any other questions from any board members? I have a few questions. Does the owner plan on putting a generator on his site for this particular building?
No.
No. Does the owner plan on doing 24-hour, 7-day-a-week emergency calls or any type of operation of that nature?
No, I had the hours.
I know what the hours were, but when you're in business, every hour is $1, so. Okay. Are we gonna be selling anything from there? At some point, generators or something of that nature, whether they're portable, whole house?
No,
No. And it'll never become a showroom, so there'll be no sales whatsoever, is that
that's
correct?
correct.
And the lighting, is it strictly to the back, to the parking lot? There'll be nothing on either side in the front? Is that what you indicated, that 20-foot wall pack?
I'm going to just confirm that again, but I believe that's the truth. Let me just. Yes, that's the only light.
And that would be strictly going to the parking lot?
Correct.
Is there gonna be any additional lighting over the garage doors to allow into the building?
Perhaps over a door, there might be a light at a doorway,
Well, that's required by code, an emergency, but,
but no more floodlight.
okay. You have parking spots. Will all the company vehicles be parked inside during the nighttime hours, or how does that work?
I think, yeah, the vans will be outside in this park, this spots.
Okay, do we have a bucket truck or anything of that nature that you're working with that is gonna be left outside? Anything that has a heater block?
So
Bucket
that's the
truck?
largest, so the largest vehicle we'd have is the bucket truck, and that would be outside.
Okay, does that have a heater block where we need to provide electric for it? No?
No.
Okay. When the workers come in the morning and all the vehicles are parked in the spots, where are they gonna go? How are they gonna manipulate everything?
Remember, about half the employees go right to the sites. The employees that come here will in fact pull into a spot, take a vehicle out and switch it. There'll be some sort of, it won't be everybody at one time. Might be a little give and take for a moment, but
Any diesel vehicles?
no.
I think that just about wraps up my questions. Again, any other board member? Oh, Mark, please.
I was just going to add on the way you were going there. I think the driveway should be restricted from parking, no parking on that driveway entrance. It's
Agreed.
only 25 foot wide. It is two-way traffic, so that would be no parking.
I'll add a note.
At least through your, I guess up to the home in the back.
Mark, is it required that they have a traffic study for in and outs? I mean, it is a commercial business. They have trucks making deliveries. Potential workers, more than 7 potentially, can show up at any one time. There's no deceleration, there's no lanes to slow down or make turns. Is that something that we should be inquiring at, or?
Well, I believe they asked for a waiver of their traffic, and Mr. Dupont provided some testimony about the operations, and, I'm comfortable with it. It's box trucks that would be coming in. It's only wholesale. I mean, not even wholesale, it's only employees,
Right.
pardon me.
Familiar
So
with the site, very
comfortable.
limited. Yeah.
I'm comfortable with his testimony as far as traffic.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything further from our professionals? Okay. Counsel, you're done with all your testimony? Okay. Anyone in the public wishing to be heard on this application and this application only, please come forward. Allison, I'm gonna ask you to move in case someone does come forward. They'll sit there so they're able to use the mic. I appreciate it. Come on forward. Take the seat. You'll be sworn in.
Sir, if I could just have you raise your right hand for me. Do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
Thomas Varga. I live at 149 Pergol Avenue, the house to the right of the property. The one with the garage in the back and the chickens.
You could sit down. That's okay.
Mr. Varga, it's V-A-R-G-A?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Varga.
I'm basically here because I went through the same deal when I wanted to build my garage in my back of my house. I didn't want to do commercial, but I was stuck in a non-conforming area. So I have the smallest lot out of the 3 lots. I know my neighbor, and I know the house to the left that Garvey's owned, or I don't really know what's going on. So basically, I'm here because I don't have a problem with a building being built in the front of the property to run his business out of, because I see it all over the township and people don't have permits to run their businesses out of their houses. Landscaping, people storage, and every weekend, commercial lawn landscapers park on the grass over there. They wake me up, and I'm for it because I want to keep the neighborhood to a certain degree the way I am. Because I'll work out in my garage at nighttime. I work on hobbies, cars, and woodworking. I'm never going to run a business out of there, but I do small things out of there, but nothing to disrupt my neighbors. His driveway is on my side of the property. So basically, any traffic that's going in and out of there will affect me more than the people to the left of his property. As far as deliveries, I don't think he'll be making any deliveries in the middle of the night, 6 o'clock in the morning, because I work for a big company. Most of our deliveries are between 7 and 3:30, and that's the cutoff line. So I'm just basically here to say, I don't have a problem with it. I voted for the school years ago. It didn't really help me one bit when I voted for the school. I think that was in 2000. It created problems for me when they built it. And now I'm dealing with garbage coming out of their parking lot into my woods and back to my house. But there's nothing I could do about it. So as far as traffic on the county road, the people speed too much. That's what the problem is with the traffic. If people were a little bit more cautious, they'd be able to see somebody turning into their driveway, which I got 2 driveways, and drivers, that's not as good as they used to be years ago. And we're very overdeveloped. So I'm for it. I want to see something built there. The house next door, 153, over the past, since I moved in my house 22, 23 years ago, it had one owner, then it had somebody else renting it, and then Garvey's bought it, and it's been rented ever since. It's never been maintained. Now somebody else supposedly bought it, which I'm not sure who, and it's up for sale as a flip. So it's all redone, and I don't think anybody that's not living there should really have a say on what should go there, because I've been dealing with that, whoever's been living there the past how many years. You know, people coming onto my property and destroying things, which I dealt with personally. So I'm for it. That's why I'm here. That's why I wanted to voice my opinion as a homeowner. I could be a commercial business, but because of the non-conforming lot sizes over there, got plenty of square footage, but we don't have the width. So that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Varga.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Is there anyone else in the public? Yes, please come forward.
If you could raise your right hand for me, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
George Gunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Gunkelman.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple of quick questions, and I apologize, at times the sound system hasn't been perfect tonight. Has the project gone through looking at it on Google Maps, there's a lot of trees. Has the tree commission signed off on the intended plans? It looks like there's going to have to be some clearing on if Google Maps is anywhere up to date.
I'm going to refer that question to
Yeah,
Mark.
I'll just run through my couple of questions, and then they can deal with them at once rather than going back and forth. Mentioned a seepage pit to handle the runoff from the additional parking and the new building. Was there a perk test done? How do we know if that seepage pit is going to function in what rain scale? I mean, are we talking about 1 inch an hour or 2 inch an hour? At what point, what's its capacity, and, you know, why do we think it would work? Again, this might be a misunderstanding from what I heard, but I thought I heard the engineer talking about when you see the final plan. Are these not the final plans?
No, they came in for a preliminary and final, and we already stated that it's going to be bifurcated, and this board is only going to vote for preliminary use only, and then they will need to come back for final. And in between that time, that's when things can be worked out with the township professionals to fine tune anything before they come back.
And the one other item that I wanted to ask, it said the light was going to be mounted on the building 20 foot high, and this is a 1-story building that's 20 foot high? It seemed like a fairly tall 1-story. That's my only question.
No, that's okay. So we're going to let the applicant respond to the height of the building. And then I think your water drainage thing, I think their engineers should be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
And your first question was?
Tree commission?
Tree
Did they get signed
commission?
off?
Well, again, I'm sure once
That's part of the
everything goes through Mark, they applied to the first aid, the utilities, the shade tree, the environmental, the police, first aid. So there's a bunch of other bodies that Mark would highlight that all need
Okay.
approval before we move forward.
Thank you.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
John, could you step forward and address Mr. Goodman's?
I guess we'll do one question at a time. We'll recap. Let's refer to the light being at 20 feet.
Yep.
And what's the actual height of the building?
Well, it's a sloped roof, and at the peak, it's 26 feet tall. So yes, 20 feet's correct for lighting.
Okay, Mr. Gokelman, did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's a peak roof at 26 feet max, so 20 feet would accommodate the light. Okay? As far as the drainage, can you,
Drainage, we are going to be doing perk tests there to ensure the soils can handle the design, and that will be submitted to Mr. Rasmussen for review. Absolutely.
again, that's why, Mr. Gokelman, that's why we're here, and we're only gonna do preliminary, because there's still too many unanswered questions that need to be answered to move forward. Anyone else from,
And shade tree.
Shade Tree?
Shade tree, we do have a letter dated June 6th. Knowing that should be known that there's no objection to the application for your shade tree commission.
Was that in our packet? I know you applied, or in January. No, I'm sure our engineer had, okay, so we'll accept that. Anyone else from the public wishing to be heard on this application? Seeing there's none, I need a motion to close the public portion on this application. Whole side of the table. Do we have a roll call, please? No? Oh, can we have a motion to close the public portion?
We had a, no.
We made a motion. So, now we all have to agree. Motion
All in
was
favor.
made.
All in
Just for
favor
the
to
group? Okay, all in favor to close the public portion? Aye. Okay, we won't have an individual roll call. Okay, board members, you have application BA 5200, there's 20 in front of us. Again, keep in mind, it's only for a preliminary site plan or preliminary use. They will need to come back.
Be a use variance with preliminary site plan approval.
They will need to come back before the board to do anything further, and I'm sure during that time, there'll be a lot of answered questions with our engineer and our planner. So do we have a motion on this application?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Ms. Caratori?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi? Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Mr. Verdi?
Yes.
Chairman LaFata?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You do have to wait for memorialization before anything is done.
Exhibit.
And you-
Do I
We're keeping everything, or no?
The exhibits
Are we
for-
keeping everything?
No, you keep it.
We're gonna go to public. Hey. Okay, while they're wrapping up, anyone in the public wishing to make any comments with respect or regard to anything? Seeing there's none, I need a motion to close the public portion. Motion, do I have a second? Tansy? All in favor of closing public portion?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, do we have any correspondences? No, excellent. And need a motion to adjourn? Motion, second from Mr. Jaffe. All in favor to adjourn? Remember, July 26th, 6:30.
Happy Fourth.
Our next meeting. Happy 4th of July.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you.